Hello everybody, it's Father Tony here. I've got a story for you today. It's a story from the Bible about somebody who met Jesus. It was a man called Zacchaeus. There, I've written his name there, look. And there's a picture of him. We don't really know what he looked like, of course, but an artist has drawn a picture to show what he might have looked like. But there are two things that we do know about Zacchaeus, and which is important to remember. The first was that Zacchaeus was a very little man. He wasn't tall at all. In fact, he was very small. The second thing is that Zacchaeus was a very rich man. He had lots and lots of money. Also, hang on, that's three things. Also, nobody liked him very much. He didn't have many friends. Nobody liked Zacchaeus very much because he got rich taking money from people and giving it to the Romans. You see, nobody liked the Romans much either. That's because they came from another country. They came with their soldiers and their swords and their spears, and they made people do things that they didn't want to do, like giving them money. They called it taxes. You see, that's what Zacchaeus did. He collected money for the Romans. They called it collecting taxes. Some of the money he gave to the Romans, but quite a lot of it he kept for himself. And that's how he got rich. But probably also that's how he got not to have many friends. So, he was a very rich man, he was a very little man, and he didn't have many friends. And Zacchaeus lived in a town called Jericho a long time ago, in the time of Jesus. Now, one bright sunny day, Zacchaeus looked down the dirt road that came into Jericho and he saw a crowd of people coming his way. Now, back then, everybody was talking about a man called Jesus. Everywhere Jesus went, people who were sick, who were poorly, got better. People who couldn't walk could walk again. People who were blind could see again. Jesus was a pretty amazing guy. And everybody wanted to see just who this Jesus was and hear what he had to say. And that included Zacchaeus. The only trouble was, everywhere that Jesus went, there were always crowds of people all around him. And remember, Zacchaeus was a very little man. He knew he'd never be able to see over a great crowd of people. Well, Zacchaeus ran up to the edge of the crowd and he stood on his tiptoes to see what all the big deal was, what all the fuss was about. But all he could see was the backs of people's heads. So he tried jumping up and down. He bounced from one side and then to the other, but still he couldn't see. And then, on one lucky bounce, he saw the man right at the centre of the crowd. Yes, it was Jesus. Zacchaeus tried to push his way through the crowd, but everybody wanted to see Jesus and they wouldn't let him through. What could he do? He wanted to see Jesus. Then Zacchaeus turned around and he saw a big sycamore tree growing right beside the road that Jesus was walking along. That gave Zacchaeus an idea. He ran on ahead and he climbed up the sycamore tree. He hadn't climbed a tree, I guess, since he was a little boy. But he didn't care if he looked silly or not. He wanted to see Jesus. And I've got a picture here, look, of of Zacchaeus up the tree when Jesus comes along. Sure enough, Jesus stopped right under the tree. And he looked up, and there was Zacchaeus, peeping out through the branches. Zacchaeus, said Jesus to him, why don't you get down from there? Come on, hurry up. I'm coming to stay at your house today. What did he say? Thought Zacchaeus. What did he say? I must stay at your house today. And how does he know my name? But he does. He knows my name and he wants to come and stay at my house. Well, Zacchaeus flew down that tree. He flew more quickly than he'd ever moved in his life before. And when his feet hit the ground, he was so happy he nearly did a little dance. But that's just the sort of thing that Jesus does to people. Jesus laughed and he slapped his arm around Zacchaeus' shoulder, and together they set off towards Zacchaeus' house. But the people in the crowd, they weren't very happy. They'd spent all day out there in the hot sun following Jesus, and now he was going to stay at the house of a rich, cheating, nasty, horrible tax collector. They began to grumble about Zacchaeus. "Ah, this man's a sinner. He's a sinner. He's awful," one woman said. "He cheats and he steals from his own people," said an old man. "He's not good enough for Jesus to come and stay at his house." Zacchaeus heard all the things that the people were saying about him. And in his heart, he must have known that they were a bit right. He hadn't been very good. So he said, "Listen, everybody. I'm going to give half of everything I have to help the poor. And if there's anybody out there that I've cheated, I'll pay you back 4 times as much." You see, Jesus was going to be a guest at Zacchaeus' house, and there they are, eating and drinking together. And what do you do when you're expecting visitors? You clean and tidy everywhere up, don't you? And that's just what Zacchaeus did, only he began by cleaning himself up on the inside first. Zacchaeus wanted to make things right for Jesus. He was so happy that Jesus wanted to come to his house. He wanted to make Jesus happy too. And Jesus was happy. Jesus said to Zacchaeus, "Today, Zacchaeus, salvation, healing has come to this house. Your life was all wrong, but now it's all right. You were lost. You'd lost your way. But now you've been saved. You've been found. That's why I'm here. I've come to find and to save the lost." Zacchaeus was a little man, but now he felt 10 feet tall. I've got some things for you to think about in that story. I hope you enjoyed the story. Some things to think about. Maybe you can think about them on your own or discuss them in your class. The first thing, nobody liked Zacchaeus. He didn't have any friends. How do you think that made Zacchaeus feel? Second thing to think about, how do you think Zacchaeus felt then when Jesus asked to come to his house? And the third thing, how did Jesus help Zacchaeus to make a fresh start, a new beginning in his life? 3 things. Maybe you'd like to talk about those with your friends. And maybe you've got other things that you heard in the story that you'd like to talk about and share. Thank you for listening.